Hi guys, we are on our trip home from Colorado, from doing the Colorado tour. And we put out a post on Instagram this morning asking for questions about our trip or whatever you want to find out about how we travel or about the little guy Max. So we've already gotten some really good questions, so stay tuned and find out what they are. So thanks to those who sent in questions, because this is going to be a 12-hour drive home. We're going to try to make it as far as we can before we stop for the night, because we are anxious to see our family, especially our kiddos. So the first question is from Quinchore Adventure, and they ask, who drives more often?
In almost every video you guys see, you're going to see me behind the wheel.
I don't know if it's because he doesn't trust me behind the wheel, it's a control issue, but he is very cautious, and to tell you the truth, I really don't want to drive. I like sitting over here and playing with my phone and taking pictures of the scenery going by, so I'm not upset about him driving at all. So they also asked, who plans your trip and how many miles per gallon do you get?
So I do a lot of the trip planning, and it depends upon what you mean by trip planning. As far as places to go and kind of the routes to take, I generally do that. As far as meal planning and stuff like that, she does all of that, gets us ready to go.
So what do you use to plan the trips? You use a certain app?
Yeah, I'll do several things. I like RV Trip Wizard. I went ahead and subscribed to that. So there is an annual fee for that. But I enjoy it, and every RV trip we've planned, from Glacier to Acadia in Maine to Key West, all of those, and this one, and the Big Bend one, I've planned every one of those with RV Trip Wizard, and it's been really nice.
Because you can set in how many miles you want to travel in a day.
Right.
And then look at spots that are going to have things for us to do, right?
Right. I can look at it. It will show campsites, or most campsites. I also use Campendium and freecampsites.net if I'm looking for campsites that may not be on RV Trip Wizard. So like some of your free places and things like that. Although I will say RV Trip Wizard has most of them. If it's an established campsite, it's on there, even if it's Forest Service or whatever.
All right, and how many miles per gallon do you get typically?
So we're pulling the max with a 2014 Volkswagen Touareg diesel TDI, and so it depends. Right now I'm looking at the current consumption, and it's all over the place, right? So if I'm going uphill, for a lot of times it's going to be under 10. If I'm going pretty flat, honestly, it's roughly about 13 to 14 miles per gallon. On average, let's see, since we started this morning, I've averaged 14.1, and that we've gone over a mountain pass.
And also, we have done how many miles so far this trip?
So far this trip, we've done over 3,000 miles. I've put 3,100 miles on so far. By the time we get finished, we'll have close to 4,000 miles.
And so far, we have spent about $431 in fuel so far, and we estimate another
couple hundred going home.
The largest expense we have typically is our fuel, because we're moving around so quickly to cover large areas. So that's, if you're staying longer in a certain area, it's going to be cheaper.
Right. You can reduce your fuel that way for sure, your fuel expense.
Yeah. So our next question is from Manipulator, and they ask, is there anything you don't particularly like about your trailer? Like design flaws, build quality, etc.
We've talked about it before on our 10 questions for Little Guy. If you look at that video, you'll find it. It's got pretty much the same answer. And that is the rear end of the Little Guy is, it has a large overhang, and for those that aren't used to it, you can hit the bottom if you go over a bump or into and out of a gas station. I would say that all of the little guys should have the lift kit that the quote Rough Rider package has. You don't need the knobby tires. Nobody does, right? It's not a big deal. They're fine, right? They've worked. We've gone almost 25,000 miles on these tires right now, and I mean they're holding up great. But you don't need the knobby tires. You do, however, in my opinion, I would not want one of the little guys without the lift kit.
Yeah. I honestly can't think of anything else I would change about the Max. I love it. I love the layouts. I love it all.
The windows, yeah, we could go on and on about the things that we like, but
yeah.
we won't bore you with it.
So our next question is from Care Bear Co. And they ask, do you guys winterize your little guy? Our sales rep told us nothing of the sorts, but friends who bought a Mini at the same place were told to do so.
Short answer is yes. If you live in a climate or are in an area where you're going to have freezing temperatures, then yeah, you want to winterize your RV, whether it's a little guy or not. There's a couple of different ways to do it. You can find the pink RV antifreeze. It's non-toxic. It's intended for water lines and that kind of thing. You can find it at Walmart or pretty much any RV store or department store. It'll be pink. The other way to do it is to use compressed air and blow your lines out, which I've done both of those. And so, yeah, look it up. There's plenty of videos on it, and you'll be able to see kind of both ways. Now, if you live in Phoenix and it never freezes, there's no reason to winterize.
Now, we had an issue while we were camping this time.
Yeah, we did have one issue while we were in the Stillwater campground near Rocky Mountain National Park, and we had electric and water hookups, and so we had our water hooked up. Well, even though the forecast was supposed to be in the mid to upper 30s, it got below freezing one night, and it froze our hose.
I think it was actually like 25 degrees.
I think it was, yeah, I don't know that it was 25. I think it was more like 28, but regardless, it was below 30. And it froze the hose on the outside of our Max. The hose coming into, now, fortunately, everything was okay. Everything was okay with our hose. Everything was okay internally because we had the heater on. So it kept the inside above freezing, and it wasn't a problem. But definitely something to keep an eye on. And I thought I was watching it. I just wasn't watching it close enough. The next night, because we had electric, we did leave we turned the electric water heater on to heat up the compartment where the water comes in and everything like that. And it kept that compartment warm, kept the pipes inside above freezing without any problem. But I did disconnect the hose because I didn't want to have it freeze right at the faucet or anything like that.
So our next question was from Mrs. Dalley's Diary, and she asked, did the little guy work out for you two being together for that many days? Did you have any weather issues, cold with the little guy Max? And was the length of the trip good, or would you recommend less or more days? So, did it work out for us being together that many days?
We've done, this is the 5th 2-week trip we've had, and I think it works out.
Oh yeah, we love it.
Yeah,
we build off of each other's excitement, so we have a blast.
We do,
together.
and what I would tell you is that we're not in the trailer. We're in the trailer at night. We're in the trailer overnight and in the morning. But that's really, we're out going, doing things, except maybe on a rest day or something like that. But even then, we can have our space. Usually, if I need to relax and take a nap, I'll do it up front. Christy will do it in the back. Does it get a little crowded whenever it's time to cook dinner and that kind of stuff? Sure, it can. Yeah.
It's like doing a dance.
It is. It can be. Or making lunch or getting in and out of the refrigerator while cooking, that kind of thing. There's little things like that, sure, a little more space would be nice, but it's not anything major.
But the ease of us being able to pack up and go quickly outweighs the needing more space.
We can be done We generally don't eat, or on this trip, we generally didn't eat breakfast.
No.
And so, I mean, we could be up and gone in a matter of 30 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Easy.
Easy.
You know.
And if we don't have hookups, 15, 20.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's
Really
assuming we had hookups and then I had to unhook everything.
So as far as the cold with the little guy Max, we kind of talked about that with the last question.
It did get cold. We were at altitude, right? So we were at 10,000 feet in Twin Lakes and near there in Granby, Stillwater Campground. And so, you know, it got cold. It got chilly up there for sure overnight. Mm-hmm. And there's two things that we used for heat. If we had hookups, we have a little portable ceramic heater that we used that works really well. If we don't have hookups, we'll use the furnace. And even with the ceramic heater, we had the furnace on as a backup just in case something happened, right? Because that ceramic heater is a little finicky.
Yeah. Also, having the rugs down on the floor helps a bunch.
Yeah, the floor is not insulated at all. I mean, it is not insulated. So yeah, having those adds a little bit of insulation.
We have nice thick pads on our rugs, so it kind of insulates for us.
So one other thing that we did to kind of prepare for cold is underneath the bed, between the basement compartment and the bed, all that's there in a stock little guy is plywood to support your mattress over a frame. In between that frame, and you'll find this on Facebook on the Little Guy Mods page. We posted it. Dan Silver has posted it. Several others, where we get inch and a half foam board cut to fit in between the frame, and then add some sealing tape around the edges just to keep any airflow coming up from around the edges of the frame, and that makes a world of difference.
Yeah, I would think that's a must do if you get a Little Guy Max.
Yeah, it definitely keeps condensation. I've heard, you know, we haven't had any problem with condensation around our bed.
No,
none at all, not one bit.
And then she also asked, was the length of the trip good for you, or would you recommend less or more days?
For us, that's probably as long, I think, as we want to go right now.
It's as long as we can possibly go with our jobs.
Yeah. Well, but honestly, I mean, after about 2 weeks, we're ready to get home.
Yeah, at the end of the 2 weeks. Okay, at the end of the 2 weeks, we are in a rush to get home because we have missed our kids and we want to see them. So, but 2 weeks is a great amount of time to see and not feel rushed.
Yeah.
And our next question is from fellow YouTubers AFK Days, and they ask, is there any place on your trip that you would have liked to have stayed longer?
Short answer, yeah. What I would say is, for any of the places that we stayed, all of the places that we stayed, we just scratched the surface on the things that are available for you to do. I mean, you know, you look at some place like Mesa Verde. Mesa Verde had very limited options while we were there. If it was full blown, you could spend a couple of days there easily to tour everything and do all the hikes and everything like that. You could say the same about Rocky Mountain National Park. Oh my gosh, you know, we could have spent a lot of time there. Because of where we stayed, we were on the west side, and so if you wanted to stay if we wanted to get to Estes Park on the east side, we had to drive across the pass every time. Well, that got to be kind of a little bit monotonous. So it limited what we wanted to do because we didn't want to necessarily make that drive all the time.
And we're constantly moving, so we have to be moving on. Like doing this loop, we had to continuously be moving forward.
Yeah.
So Chris did a lot of research and figured out what were the top things to do there, and had that in our calendar. He has a system that's great. I'll let him explain it more, but he utilizes the calendar, is all I have to say about that.
So all I did after using RV Trip Wizard to kind of find where I want to go, then I start making reservations and try to figure out, okay, what are the big things what are the big places that we want to go? For this trip, it was kind of Rocky Mountain National Park we wanted to go to visit again. I knew we wanted to go to Dinosaur. I knew we wanted to go to Colorado National Monument. All right, I knew, and so it was, okay, here's the places that we want to go. What are the cool things to see in between and on the way? And then try to work that into a timeline. Okay, I've got 14 days to work with. Here's, and kind of work backwards from there to figure out, okay, and are there things that we had to cut out? Sure. Are there things that we had to compromise on? Yes.
But at least we had the ideas.
Yeah, we had the idea, right. We had the ideas of what we wanted to do, and then it's a matter of, okay, putting it into RV Trip Wizard with the dates and the number of nights that I want to stay and everything like that to kind of get it into a sequence, then start making reservations. And, make the reservations from the areas you can. And for a lot of the national forest campgrounds and that kind of stuff, you really had to pay attention because a lot of them closed on Labor Day, and we're going after Labor Day. And so, you have to have some backups for sure of places that you want to stay and that kind of thing. And we didn't have reservations for every place because not every place took reservations, but we did what we could. After making the reservations and getting all the details, I'd put them into my Google Calendar on the day that we would be staying that night, and put things. I would put the campsite number, what else did we put in there?
Whether or not they had electricity, if they had
water or dump,
yeah,
where the closest water and dump station was, if we needed to get water before we arrived, that kind of thing. Things to do nearby, things that we wanted to see, check in, check out times, that kind of thing. By putting it into the Google Calendar, though, and then making sure that I downloaded it, it was on my phone whether we had signal or not.
Yeah.
That way I had it I could go into my calendar, look at the date, find what I wanted, find the place where we were going to be that day, and I had all the information that I needed or wanted.
He's so organized. That's one thing I love about him. All right, so the next question is from at least 35, and she asked, since the bed is sideways, has it been an issue for two people, claustrophobia, or also climbing over another person to get to the sink or the bathroom?
I'm going to let you answer that one.
Okay. Well, I am the one that usually sleeps on the far wall next to the slanted portion in the Little Guy Max.
I put her there. Just kidding.
No, I like the coziness of that little nook area, and I also like that back wall gets cold kind of at night. I can stick my leg out and put my leg up against the wall and, cool off if I need to. As far as climbing over Chris to get up in the middle of the night, it's not a big deal. I think he probably likes it. So that's all for this question and answer segment.
But if you keep asking more questions, we'll have to make another video.
What, part 2?
Part 2.
All right, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the road.
Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and the little bell notification.
He's catching on.